Recording has begun. Good day, everyone. We are coming back together as a family, the family of Yah, to come and learn about his calendar. And as you see here, this is a picture showing you the going down the sun, what it may look like. I recommend to my brothers and to my sisters, please take the time out to observe the Father heavens and see what he has made. Because y'all, it's a beautiful thing to see how a day come in and how a day leave. It also is a beautiful thing to see how daylight come in and how daylight leave, as well as how night come in and how night leave. It's a beautiful thing to see. So we can begin to understand our Father phases of a day. And you know, a day is made up of what? Evening and morning, as written in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. Okay. So if you have not watched part one of Sundown to Sundown, between the two evenings, I recommend that you watch that because there was some terminology we had to define according to the Most High definition. So it may not be mentioned in this part, which is part two, may not be mentioned in this. So please check out part one. All right. So as we learned before, we learned that the going down of the sun lets us know when the day begins and when the day is ending. That is one of the roles and function of that light that the Father has made in his heavens. So I want you to take some time to meditate on this picture because we don't really pay attention what this is saying unto us. Okay? Now, what we're going to do next, we're going to face the east. And I ask that my brothers that you uncover your head. And to my sisters, I ask that you cover your head. That is a physical sign we perform because it connects to a spiritual aspect. Okay. Now, those who cannot partake in that physical at this time because you may be in jail, you may be in prison, or you may be in the sick bed, or whatever the reason may be, you are covered. Again, many people don't understand the mystery of the new covenant, but you are covered at this time. But the day is going to come where we're going to keep what the Father made us, what He commanded us to keep that was set in the beginning. A lot of people don't understand the beginning. When you understand the beginning, then you understand the future, what is coming. Okay, so we're going to face the east. Now, if you don't know where east is, it's where that light first appeared in the sky. Now, at this time of the year, the sun will rise close to the east point. It's not going to be on the east point, y'all. We're going to rise close to the east point because, as we learned before, the sun only rises on the east point 2 times in the year. But for the other days of this year, it only rises close to the east point. So wherever you see the light rise first in the heavens, or whenever you see where the sun rises, that's where the east direction is. Okay. Then once you find east, as you facing east, behind you be west. Then to your right would be south, and then to your left would be north. Ain't it amazing how the Father created His heavens to give you? It's kind of like a GPS or a map, to give you a sense of direction. All right, Sister Huda, you can begin.
Thank you, sis. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 96. Oh, sing unto the Lord a new song. Sing unto the Lord, all the earth. Sing unto the Lord, bless his name. Show forth his salvation from day to day. Declare his glory among the heathen, his wonders among all people. For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all the gods. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Honor and majesty are before him. Strength and beauty are in his sanctuary. Give unto the Lord, O ye kindreds of the people. Give unto the Lord glory and strength. Give unto the Lord the glory due unto his name. Bring an offering and come into his courts. O worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Fear before him all the earth. Say among the heathen that the Lord reigneth. The world also shall be established, that it shall not be moved. He shall judge the people righteously. Let the heavens rejoice, and let the earth be glad. Let the sea roar, and the fullness thereof. Let the field be joyful, and all that is therein. Then shall all the trees of the wood rejoice before the Lord, for he cometh, to judge the earth. He shall judge the world with righteousness, and the people with his truth. Oh, thank you, Heavenly Father. In the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, we pray. Amen.
So be it. That was an awesome prayer. And that was from Psalms 91.
96.
Oh my goodness. Judgment. Wow. That's a good chapter to go back and reflect on and meditate on. All right, let us get to it. Let us first get this out the way, y'all, because I may be sharing some copyright material. I will make a correction with this title because as I was sharing with my family, so there will be no confusion. Um, Between the two evenings is talking about sundown or at the going down of the sun. Okay, that is what we learned from part one. Between the two evening means at the going down of the sun. Okay. So that title will be updated. Okay. So that way there be no confusion. But I'm going to take you back to the foundation so we can see what is another word that means at the going down of the sun. And you probably put in the. Okay. So let us go back to the foundation. You can go back to Exodus 12 so you can get that word that I'm telling you about. We're going to Exodus chapter 6, Exodus chapter 12, verse 6. So in Exodus chapter 12, verse 6, you're going to see this word. Let me see, can I find it? Evening, evening. And sometime another word we will see, and which we're going to talk about today, is even, even. So it's very important that we understand what is the definition of this word in this verse. And when we look at the side of the King James 16:11 of Exodus chapter 12, verse 6, the word evening in that verse mean, according to the Hebrew language, it means between the two evenings. Between the two evenings. Okay. So I do need to correct my title. I tried everything lined up. So, oh no, I don't need to correct my title. But, oh yes, I do. I have it at the wrong spot. Mm, mm, mm. So evening means at the going down. I'm sorry. Evening means between the two evenings. Between the two evenings. Okay. What is this thing doing? Okay. There we go. All right. So now we got that defined. I know last time I told you that we're going to talk about this diagram here that I was sharing with you in regards to Leviticus chapter 23 dealing with the Day of Atonement. So reader 1, what I'm going to do, we're going to go to Leviticus chapter 23. And it's only one particular verse I want you to read. And before you read, I need to give y'all the date. That is the whole purpose of us coming together, learning the Father calendar, knowing what today's date is according to his commandments, and to compare what the heathens have, because you know the heathens do the opposite of us. So reader 1, if you can hold off, let me pull up the calendar. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
So we have that out the way. Here we go. Now, as of this time, I'm still working on the calendar, looking at all the new moon results. But so far, what I have, the new moon was seen around the world on the heathen date known as December the 5th. So right now, this calendar is not filled out completely, okay? But to give you an idea where we at on the Father's calendar, according to the days of his week, all right, we are on day 5 of his week, all right, and it is day 6 of the moon. Now, as far as the date of the sun, let me hurry and figure that out for you. Y'all have to forgive me on that. Let me see. See here. 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if I have this correct, the date of the sun, I'm sorry, this is dealing with the heathen's date. The heathen date will fall on December the 10th to December 11th. December the 10th to December 11th. As far as the date of the sun, it is 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So the date of the sun, we are in the sun's 9th month and 19th day, if I counted correctly. We are in the sun's 9th month and 19th day. As far as the day of the heathen, again, it falls on December the 10th to December 11th. Now, as far as the heathen date, we are on their month called December. The day is the 11th and the year is 2021. Far as the Most High year, dealing with the day from Adam, we're in the 8th day. Far as the day from creation, we're in the 13th day. As far as the date of Enoch's 10-week prophecy, we are in the 8-week prophecy. And far as the 7-day prophecy, if I remember correctly, we're in the 5th day prophecy of the 7. Okay. As you see, our Father is different from the heathens. For we start our day from sundown to sundown. From sundown to sundown, for we are the children of light. However, the heathens are the children of Satan, for he is the father of what? Darkness. That's why they start their day from midnight to midnight. Now, as you see on this calendar, we're now in the season of the rains. So the first rain started in the 8th month of the Most High calendar known as Bull. And it's right at this time, it's still ongoing. So that's why we're seeing a lot of rain now. We're in the month of Caslu or Kasiv. Okay. Another way of saying this is Cheslu. Okay. So take this time now to pause your screen. All right. Sorry about that. Now let me get back to my spot first. And then we're going to have reader 1 to read Leviticus chapter 23 for us, dealing with atonement, okay, which is going to explain or give us more understanding what does it mean between the 2 evenings, or what does it mean from evening to evening, okay. So in Leviticus chapter 23, it gives you the instructions about what we do on the Day of Atonement. And there was one particular verse that stood out unto us that will help us to understand why the 9th day is mentioned. So my sister, can you read verse 32 for me?
Sis,
Yes,
yeah, can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, you told me to read right because my volume was
Okay. Read verse 32 for me.
okay. It says, "It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the ninth day of the month at evening. At even unto even shall ye celebrate your Sabbath."
Okay. So with this verse, we have to take our time because most of us know that the Day of Atonement takes place on the 10th day. Now, there are other scriptures that would confirm what I'm saying. That's in the King James 1611 Bible, and also that's in the work of Josephus. Okay. But when I came across this verse, I often wonder, why does it say that we shall what? Afflict our souls or keep a fast in the ninth day of the month at evening. And notice it has a comma, so that means it's a pause there because it's going to explain what at even means. So it goes on to say, from even to even shall you celebrate your Sabbath, because in this same verse, and you also read up higher, you will learn that the Day of Atonement is a day of rest. For it's written that it shall be unto us a Sabbath of rest. Okay. So let's go back to the diagram and we can see how this would take place. Okay. Because it's going to expound on at evening in the ninth day of the month. Okay. And in that month of atonement, it's in the 7th month of the Most High calendar unto the Israelites. Now, in the Adamic year, the 7th month unto them would have been the 1st month. Again, remember, go back to the beginning. Father changed some stuff around. Okay. So we go back to the diagram to understand what does it mean at even, which is from even to even. We learned that the going down of the sun comes in between the two evenings. Okay. And because it comes in between the two evenings, on the ninth day, there's an evening portion here as the sun is going down. And then on the other side of the sun, there's the evening portion there for the 10th day as the sun is going down. Also, we read from the work of Josephus would confirm unto us that as the sun is going down, that a day is ending and a new day is beginning at the same time. I thought that was amazing. So when we read Leviticus chapter 23, looking at verse 32, okay, when we look at that verse, I now begin to understand why the scribe will write the ninth day, because he is defining what that evening is. Again, remember, in this verse, it defined that in the ninth day of the month, the evening is from even to evening, meaning that what? The going down of the sun to the next going down the sun. Okay. So when we look at this diagram, on the ninth day, as the sun is going down, you have evening on this side of the sun, right in here on this side. So that's marking the ninth day even. Okay. And then on the other side of this sun here, you have the 10th day even. And as that verse is saying unto us in verse 32, we are to keep atonement from what? From even to evening. In other words, from sundown to sundown. because the sun, as it's going down, is coming in between the evenings. Want to make sure that everybody understand that part. Do I need to repeat something again? Because there might be family who's watching this video may not be understanding what I'm saying. I take y'all silent as a yes. So I'm going to say this again for those who are watching this video. I want you to listen up because you definitely need to watch part 1 to understand what I'm saying. We learned from part 1 that as the sun is going down, it's coming in between the 2 evenings. It's coming in between 2 evenings. So on one side of the sun, as if you can face and look at the sun as you face it in the heavens, on one side of the sun, there's an evening portion here. And on the other side of the sun, there's an evening portion here. This is what Josephus called in the twilight. Okay. The time for, according to the Hebrews, the time that's in between the 2 days. All right. So when we look at the Feast of Atonement, and you have to understand the mystery of why I say it's a feast, okay, for those who understand that mystery, that when we look at the Feast of Atonement, the Father command us to atone ourselves or to afflict our souls or to perform a fast unto him from even to even. Another way of saying this, let's substitute the word. We know even means what? At the going down of the sun. So at the going down of the sun to the next going down of the sun, shall we atone ourselves. Okay. So this is why you see me in this diagram, Ethanim 9. Okay, Ethanim is the Hebrew word for the 7th month. In the Babylonian tongue, they say Tishri. This is why you see this diagram from evening to evening under the night day as a day. Okay. And on his weekday, it will fall under day 1. And atonement will fall under day 2 of his weekday. And as you see, as we go from evening to evening, from even to even, which means at the going down the sun, it makes a day. And what is the day unto the Father? Go back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. It is evening and morning, night and daylight. Okay? We have to look at the context of the scriptures. And proof it what I'm saying, when you get to the part dealing with his lights, notice that the terminology remains the same. For we learned about the sun, one of the roles of the sun is to give you the phases of the daylight. To give you the phases of the daylight, such as morning, noon, afternoon, and evening. For we learned through the precept that evening can have some light in it. When you learn its phases. That was all mentioned in part 1. Okay. So just a quick review. What is the role of the sun? The sun role is to tell you when the Father day begins and ends. And what is a day unto the Father? Genesis chapter 1. It is evening and morning, night and daylight. Okay. All right. Now we're going to get into the next word we're going to learn about. What is evening tide? I thought that was very interesting. So as we go through the scriptures, we're going to work ourselves to these scriptures. We're going to begin to learn what is evening tide. So now we have learned, let me see where to put this is at. What is evening or what is even? So at even deals with what? The going down of the sun. The next thing we learn on, I'll also put this under Leviticus 23. We learn what evening from evening to even means. So in the 9th day of the month at even, right? And we learned what that means was from even unto evening. And from evening unto evening means from the going down of the sun to the next going down of the sun. Another way you can say this, from sundown to sundown. But notice here, what's the key word? It's dealing with the time as the sun is going down. Okay. But often you will hear Israelites would say from sundown to sundown, but it's dealing with the going down of the sun. For we also learned that the going down of the sun what does it signify unto us? It is signify unto us the end of one day, such as what the night day in Ethanim, and the beginning of another day, such as the 10th day. Which is atonement. This is what we're learning. Now I am aware there are going to be some who are still not convinced, but we stand by the living word, and each is to their own. But we will continue to believe that a day, according to the Most High definition that is written in Genesis, starts from sundown to sundown, which consists of evening and morning. And remember, according to the Most High standards, evening can have daylight in it. Now we're going to look at some verses. Let's see here. I want to make this a little bit more narrow. Okay. All right. Take this time now to pause your screen to reflect on what I just shared with you. So as that sun is going down, one day is ending while one day is beginning. Both of this is happening at the same time. Now we can get understanding why the word even or evenings is used. All right. Now let's look at some scriptures. So we're going to pick up at Genesis chapter 15, and we're going to look at verse 12 and 17. Now, this part is dealing with our father Abraham. Let me read the chapter summary on you before we look at those verses. For it says, Yahuwah encouraged Abram, and Abram complained for want of an heir. Yahuwah promised him a son and a multiplying of his seed. Abram is justified by faith. Canaan is promised again and confirmed by a sign and a vision. Then we're going to look at verse 12. Okay, this is the vision that Abraham see, but I want y'all to see this. Reader 2, can you read verse 12 for me?
Yes. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him.
So in this time when the father was giving Abram this vision, notice what take place. It said, when the sun was going down, so this day was ending while a new day was beginning. Okay, now let's look at verse 17. Reader 2, do you mind? Can you read verse 17 for me? Reader 2.
And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces.
So again, this verse is giving you an example how the sun is marking the ending of one day and the beginning of another. Okay. Notice here what it say, and it came to pass that when the sun went down, it was dark. Behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. You probably want to read this whole chapter to see how these two verses is flowing with these verses, with these other verses. Okay, but let me give you some more examples. We're going to look at Leviticus chapter 22. And another reason why the Father is having me to share these verses, notice that how he's using his lights in the heaven to give you an indication of time or when these events are happening. And also it is used to know when to perform certain tasks or to know when a certain thing that is upon you is over. So the next thing we're going to look at is the book of Leviticus, and we're going to look at chapter 22, verse 1 through 7. It is proven to you that I use made to keep up with time, not what they're doing today in this Babylonian modernized world. Okay, remember we have been spoiled by the heathens. We have been taught the heathens' ways. We have to go back to the ways of our ancestors, and those ways came from our Father in heaven. So in Leviticus chapter 22, I'm going to read a chapter summary unto you, and then I'm going to have reader 1 to read verse 1 through 4. Okay. Then I have reader 2 to read verse 5, 6, and 7. So here's the chapter summary. The priests in their uncleanness must abstain from the holy things. How they shall be cleansed? Who of the priest's house may eat of the holy things? The sacrifices must be without blemish. The age of the sacrifice. The law of eating the sacrifice of thanksgiving. Okay. To reader 1, can you read verse 1 through 4 for me?
Okay. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and to his sons that they separate themselves from the holy things of the children of Israel, and that they profane not my holy name in those things which they hallow unto me. I am the Lord. Say unto them, whosoever he be of all your seed, among your generations, that goeth unto the holy things, which the children of Israel hallow unto the Lord, having his uncleanness upon him, that soul shall be cut off from my presence. I am the Lord. What man soever of the seed of Aaron is a leaper, or had a running issue, he shall not eat of the holy things until he be clean. And whoso toucheth anything that is unclean by the dead, or a man whose seed goeth from him.
Okay, I'm going to intercede. Hold on, reader 2. I want y'all to pay attention to about the standards that he's given unto the priest when it's dealing with being unclean. Okay? Pay close attention, because he's going to give you on how long one is unclean. This is where I'm going with this. I'm looking at the timing on how long one is unclean, and notice what we have to use notice what we have to use to determine that time. Okay, to reader 2, I'm going to have you to read verse 5, 6, and 7. Reader 2, can you hear me?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted.
Okay.
Okay.
Read for me verse 5, 6, and 7.
Yes. Or whosoever touches any creeping thing, whereby he may be made unclean, or a man of whom he may take uncleanness, whatsoever uncleanness he hath. The soul which hath touched any such shall be unclean until even, and shall not eat of the holy things until he wash his flesh with water. And when the sun is down, he shall be clean, and shall afterward eat the holy things, because it is his food.
Okay. So what I'm looking at here, in order to know when one will be clean again, notice what he's given us. He said until even. And we learned from the other verses that even deals with what? At the going down of the sun. But notice in verse 7, it's going to expound what even is in this verse. Verse 7 said, when the sun is down. So when the sun is down, that's when he shall be clean. And that, and in addition to that, shall afterward eat of the holy things, because it is his food. Remember, the sons of Aaron, who are the high priests, they didn't have any land. So those sacrifices that was offered unto Yahuwah was given unto the priests. But you know, those sacrifices are holy. Some of those sacrifices were, well, put like this, some of the sacrifices that was offered unto Yahuwah was only designated for the priest to eat. When you go back and study about the different types of sacrifices, okay? Notice there, okay? But for this particular sacrifice, only the Levites was, well, only the sons of Aaron could eat of it, because they could only, they was given the role to be the high priests. Okay. So for that priest, he would be clean when the sun is down. Another way of saying this is what? Even, forget my tongue, even. So when the sun is down, or when it's until even, then he shall be clean, and then he can partake in the eating of the holy things, because that is the food that the Father has designated for the priest to eat. All right. That was Leviticus chapter 22, verse 1 through 7. Let's look at another verse. Now we're going to go to the book of Joshua. This is the one I want to get into, okay? All right. Now we're going to see how even or sundown is used. Notice here, the Father want us to use what, the Father want us to use his lights that was made in heaven. Because his lights, when he made them, was to help us to understand about time, such as when a day began and end, when the month began and end, when the seasons begin and end, and when the years begin and end. He made these lights for man. He don't need that. He knows about time. But for Adam, he made it for you. That's one of the roles and functions of these lights. Okay? So now we go to the book of Joshua, chapter 10. We're going to look at verse 25 to 27. I will read the chapter summary unto you. Chapter 10, the summary is, five kings war against Gibeon. Joshua rescueth. Yahuwah fighteth against them with hailstones. The sun and moon stand still at the word of Joshua. The five kings are murdered in a cave. They are brought forth, scornfully used, and hanged. 7 kings more are conquered. Joshua returned to Gilgal. Okay? There's something interesting in this verse you probably want to meditate on. And what I want to bring to your attention, the sun and the moon stand stilled. Something to think about. All right. So we're going to look at verse 25, 26, and 27. To reader 1, can you read first start with reading verse 25.
And Joshua said unto them, Fear not, nor be dismayed. Be strong, and be of good courage. For thus shall Yahuwah do to all your enemies against whom ye fight.
Again, what was same for Joshua in his days is the same for us. We have to have faith, y'all. We cannot defeat our enemies. And again, many are looking at the enemy as them in flesh and blood. But our enemies are dealing with the angels, the principalities, the spirits. We are no match for them. But only he who lives in us is the match for them. Remember, we must have faith in Yah that he will deliver us. All right. To reader 1, can you read verse 26?
And afterwards Joshua smote them, and slew them, and hanged them on, is that fig trees?
5 trees.
5 trees, okay. And they were hanging upon the trees until the evening.
This verse here you want to highlight because we're going to get the definition in verse 27. What is the evening? What is the evening? But notice here, this verse is going to give you understanding when you go to the gospel, why they had to take the Messiah down off the cross so quickly. Okay? Because it's deal with what was written in Torah. And then you begin to understand of the curse that is placed on America, which is Babylon. This is why we know destruction is coming here because of what Yah said. Notice here, they hung them on trees. And he told Joshua they can only hang upon a tree until the evening. So they couldn't hang on a tree for a long period of time. They had to be taken down at the evening. All right. We're going to see what that means. Reader 1, can you read verse 27?
Mm-hmm. And it came to pass at the time of the going down of the sun that Joshua commanded, and they took them down off the trees and cast them into the cave, wherein they had been hid, and laid great stones in the causes in the cave's
In the
mouth.
cave.
Yeah, cave's
Read that,
mouth. Uh,
read that part again.
okay. And it says, and laid great stones in the cave's mouth, which remain unto this very day.
Okay. So now we got the definition of what does it mean until evening. They was to take the bodies off the trees that they hung them upon at the time of the going down the sun. Now, I don't know if you ever had a chance to watch it, but y'all, it's a beautiful thing to see, to watch the sun go down. Because people don't think there's not no time in that. Yes, there's time in that, where they had time to do all that. But notice here, it's a reason why Joshua had to take these bodies off these trees that was hanging upon them at the going down of the sun. So now we're going into the foundation. We're going to Torah, which is Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 3. And also we go to Joshua chapter 8, verse 29. So let's first go to Joshua chapter 8. Well, I think we say that for last. Let us first go to Deuteronomy chapter 21, and we're going to look at verse 22 to 23. Sorry about that, y'all, my tongue. I'm going to read Psalm to you. Chapter 21. The expiation of an uncertain murderer, the usage of a captive taken to wife. The firstborn is not to be disinherited upon private affections. A stubborn son is to be stoned to death. The malefactor must not hang all night on a tree. We understand the mystery of what the tree, because it can be different types of trees, such as a tree itself with its branch, or such as a cross that's made from a tree. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a part in the Apocrypha that would show you what I'm talking about. And I believe it's dealing with, they took the beams out of the person's house and hung them on that. I have to go back and look for that just to be for sure. So when you understand about when he's saying hang on a tree, it can be on a tree itself, or it can be wood beams made from a tree. Just like with the serpent he placed upon the cross. Remember, to foreshadow what was written in the gospel. And when he was hung upon the cross, he formed the Hebrew letter Yod, that means the hand, and he did a finished work. It says mysteries in this stuff, y'all. All right, I believe we're going to verse 22 to 23. All right, to reader 2, if you can read verse 22 to 23 for me.
Okay. And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt be in any wise bury him that day, for he that is hanged is accursed of Yahweh. That thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance.
So let me take this slow because it's a lot in these verses that many of my fellow brothers and sisters overlook. And if they understand the biblical prophecy, then they will understand why Babylon will be going down, for this land is accursed. Okay, let's begin with 22. The mystery, when you look at 22, that many do not understand why the second Adam was able to conquer or to defeat death and destruction or to defeat Satan. Okay. The reason why death could not contain him or hold him in Sheol, which is hell, because the law say here that comes from our Father in heaven, that if a man had committed a sin worthy of death, this is why the second Adam was able to escape that and empower and to conquer Satan, because they killed an innocent man. When you read the sacred books, such as the book of Nicodemus, known as the Act of Pontius Pilate, it would give you the inner details of what I'm telling you. See, Satan thought he had him. But the same way that Satan defeated the same way that Satan conquered the first Adam was the same method used against Satan. See, he took our father Adam by a tree, but the second Adam conquered or defeated him by a tree. You see the irony in that. So the Bible is right, that a man sowed, that a man reaped. You don't get away with your wickedness. You are digging a pit for yourself. So when you learn the history of my people, you will learn that our enemies often like to hang us upon crosses, whether they crucify us or just roped us or lynched us on a tree. They will often do that. But only if they understood the word of Yah. For the word of Yah says this, that if the body remain all night upon a tree, and I'm thinking about that song saying strange fruits, he says this will happen. He said they will be a curse, and the land will be defiled. Now you begin to stand those biblical prophecy and why Babylon will be destroyed. They had shed blood. They had killed his people, and their bodies have remained upon the tree all night long. But we're now going back to the topic dealing with the going down the sun. We now know that the part that we're looking at, the body has to be taken at the going down of the sun before this phase of the evening come in, which is darkness. Because the key word here is said, they shall not remain all night upon the tree. So when you understand your phase of the day, you have to know what all night is. Okay? So according to our Father definition here, in order for that land not to be defiled or accursed, the body has to be taken down at the going down of the sun before the phase of night come in. I'm talking about the darkness comes in. I probably need to clarify that because it might confuse some people. In other words, the body has to be taken down at the going down the sun. Anytime after at the going down of the sun, after that time, then that land would be a curse. Okay. Now we're going to Joshua chapter 8. Now we get to understand what is eventide. And we're going to look at verse 29. I'm going to read the chapter summary to you first. Chapter 8 summary is Yahuwah encouraged Joshua. The strategy whereby A was taken, the king thereof is hanged. Joshua buildeth an altar, write the law on stones, propoundeth blessings and curses. Blessing and cursings. To read a 2, I'm going to have you to read verse 29 for me.
Okay. And the king of A he hanged on a tree until eventide. And as soon as the sun was down, Joshua commanded that they should take his carcass down from the tree and cast it at the entering of the gate of the city, and raise thereon a great heap of stones that remaineth until this day.
Okay. So again, we're seeing a new word introduced unto us, because I often too wonder what was eventide. Okay. And it reminds me of, let me see, what's that word? It's dealing with waters. Something with tide. Not the tide of cleansing and washing the clothes, but it's something else I'm thinking about. But anyway, notice here with the king of he hang on a tree until evening tide, and as soon as the sun was down. So to understand this more, you can go back to Joshua chapter 10. When we look at Joshua chapter 10, the same thing that was done to was done with these 5 kings, that their body was taken down at the going down of the sun. Remember, we got to do precept upon precept so we can understand what these verses are saying, because it's written in the English language. So the same thing that was done with these 5 Canaanite kings was done with King His body was taken down at the going down of the sun. Okay. Because the law said in Deuteronomy chapter 22, I believe, that the body has to be removed. Well, that the body cannot hang on the cross all night. So that's why they went ahead and took it down at the going down of the sun. So another word for that is eventide, evening tide. And now we can see the mindset of the Father, why he will command us to do certain things, or why he would say one would be unclean until that time, because it's dealing with one day ending, and another day beginning. Now we get more insight about the Passover. Why is sacrifice between the 2 evenings? Makes sense now. Another verse we're going to look at is 2 Chronicles chapter 18, looking at verse 34. Let me read the chapter summary unto you. Jehoshaphat joined in affinity with Ahab, is persuaded to go with him against Ramoth Gilead. Ahab, seduced by false prophets, according to the word of Micaiah, is slain there. Verse 34, reader 1, can you read that for me?
And the battle increased that day. How about the king of Israel stayed himself up in his chariot against the Syrians until the even. And about the time of the sun going down, he died.
Okay, so let us look at this verse again. It says, the battle increased that day. Now we got to ask yourself, what is a day? It's dealing with what? It's made up of what? Evening and morning. Okay. Howbeit the king of Israel stayed himself up in his chariot against the Syrians. So they saying, how was he able to stand himself up in his chariot when he fought against the Syrians? And he did this until the evening. Until the even. So now we learn from the other verses that even has to do with the going down the sun. So let's see. Because we see in this verse, we have colons that's going to expound on that. So he stayed himself up in this chariot until the evening, and that means that took place about the time of the sun going down, and then he died. In other words, he gave up the breath. In the Greek way, they would say he gave up the ghost. Okay, so he died about the time when the sun was going down. So when the sun was going down, remember the sun marks when that day is ending and when a new day is beginning, or when another day is beginning. So now as you read in your scriptures, you can pay attention about time when these events took place. Also, when you're reading Torah, you can begin to understand the instructions and how to carry out those instructions, and when certain things will end and when certain things will begin. Okay. Now we'll go to Ecclesiasticus, and we're going to look at chapter 1 at verse 1 through 5. I believe this is the one in the Old Testament dealing with the Solomon wrote. Verse 1. I'm going to read chapter summary unto you. For it says, the preacher showeth that all human courses are vain, because the creatures are rentless in their courses. They bring forth nothing new, and all old things are forgotten. And because he hath found it so in the study of wisdom. Yep, this is in the Old Testament dealing with Solomon, King Solomon writings. And notice here, look at the word creatures. You won't see who he's talking about. But anyway, let us look at verse 1 through 5. To reader 2, can you read verse 1 through 3 for me?
The words of the preacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit hath a man of all his labor, which he taketh under the sun?
Now, when you pause to this verse, notice here, Solomon is asking a question here because he's pondering on something. He's meditating. He said, what is the point of all these things? Okay, what is the point of doing all these things? They're vanity, right? What does it profit a man to do all these things or to work like this? And notice what he say, which he taketh under the sun. What did he mean by that? He's talking about when he performed his labors during the time of daylight, which what happens under the sun. Makes sense, because the sun in the heaven, it comes through the door, comes to the left, that the Gentiles would say portals, and it shows himself from going from the eastward direction towards the westward direction. And is not the sun above us in the first heaven, the first firmament? Okay. All right, reader 2, can you read verse 4 and 5 for me?
One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh. But the earth abideth forever. The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to the place where he arose.
Notice here, he talks about the sun. Okay. He's bringing out some interesting things to meditate on. And something that I would share with y'all, when you are awake and you see this world for what it really is, you come in the true reality of Yah. You begin to see we are truly in this world of darkness. And then you begin to ask yourself, what is the point of us of doing all these things, such as having careers, building homes, when we know what the prophecies say that he's going to destroy this world with fire and he's going to bring forth a new heaven, new earth. And when you come to that reality, then you begin to know how to live your life in this world of darkness. You then begin to focus on doing Father's will and not your will. So when you read a book of Solomon in the book of Ecclesiasticus, you begin to understand why Solomon was asking these questions. But notice how he bring out one of the Father's light. He's let us know the sun still rise and the sun still go down from day to day. One generation lived for a certain time and then it passed away and another generation comes in. Over and over and over. Something to really think about. Again, remember the role of the sun. It gives us understanding about morning, noon, afternoon, and evening. That's one of the roles of the sun. It is our clock during the daytime, during the light. Now we're going to look at Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 1 through 2. Chapter summary unto you. It says, the Creator is to be remembered in due time. The preachers care to edify. The fear of Yahuwah is the chief antidote of vanity. So if you want to not be in vanity, the way to get rid of that is to fear our Father in heaven. Something to think about. So now we're going to look at verse 1 through 2. To reader 1, can you read verse 1 through 2 for me?
Yes. It says, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draweth nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. When the sun or the light or the
Start
moon.
over again, sis.
Oh,
Start over
okay.
again in verse 2.
All right. It says, while the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain.
So I'm sharing this verse with y'all because, again, I want to make a clear distinction about this light that we first seen in heaven. It is separate. It exists before the sun, the moon, and the stars. Notice what Solomon write unto us. So this is why I'm sharing this verse with you. Notice how he lists these things. The sun, the light, the moon, the stars. Something to think about and meditate on. When you meditate on this verse, then you begin to understand Genesis chapter 1, or what we discussed in part 1. I'm going to say Tobit for last, but let us go to the book of Judith in chapter 14. We're going to look at verse 1 through 2. Okay, summary to you. I'm not going to try to say this word. I'm just going to say the first letter, y'all. A, heareth Judah. Show what she has done, and is circumcised. The head of O is hanged up. He is found dead, and much lament. Okay. So we're going to look at verse 1 through 2. To reader 2, can you read verse 1 to 2 for me?
Then said Judith unto them, hear me now, my brethren, and take this head, and hang it upon the highest place of your walls. And so soon as the morning shall appear, and the sun shall come forth upon the earth, Take you every one his weapons, and go forth every valiant man out of the city, and set you a captain over them, as though you would go down into the field towards the watch of the Assyrians, but go not down.
So I'm sharing this verse with you because, like I said, it's emphasizing what I'm talking about when you look at the phases of a day. Um, and I'm talking about a day again. I'm talking about when you're dealing with evening and morning. But notice here what is written to us. It said, as soon as the morning shall appear. What is the sign? Now, this is a question you need to ask yourself to let us know that morning has appeared. Because notice here we have a conjunction and. It don't say that the sun let us know that it's morning. It's something else that take place in the heaven to let us know that it's morning. And I'm gonna give you a little hint. We just read it in but as far as a key in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 1 to 2. Okay. So soon as the morning appeared, remember your signs. Go back to Genesis chapter 1. Soon as the morning appeared, and the sun shall come forth. So it's two events that take place. So those who watch the heaven, you will understand what I'm talking about. And the Father tell me go ahead and give it to you. Okay. So how do we know that morning appear? When we first see that light in the face of heaven. And what is the face of heaven? In the eastward direction. That's how we know it's morning. And then you will see the rising of the sun. It's a beautiful thing to see. All right. So as you see, through precept upon precept, line upon line, these scriptures will help you to understand the phases in a day. And the day I'm talking about consists of evening and morning. Then we're going to the book of chapter 2. Okay. I'm going to you. Let me see. We're going to look at verse 1 through 7. And this is going to get us when a day begin, a day end, and what take place. You know, what do Tobit put off on the next day? Okay. Tobit chapter 2. I'm going to read a chapter summary to you, and then I will have reader on 1 to read verse 1, 2, 3, 4 for me, and then I have reader 2 to read verse 5, 6, and 7. All right, Tobit chapter 2, chapter summary. Tobit believeth his meat to bury the dead, and becometh blind. His wife taketh and work to get her living. Her husband and she fall out about a kid. Okay. To reader 1, read verse 1 through 4.
Okay. It says, now when I was come home again, and my wife Anna was restored unto me, with my son Tobias, in the feast of Pentecost, which is the holy feast of the 7 weeks. There were a good dinner prepared me, in the which I sat down to eat. And when I saw abundance of meat, I say to my son, go and bring what poor man soever thou shalt find out of our brethren, who is mindful of Yahuwah, and lo, I tarried for thee. But he came again and said, Father, one of our nations is strangled and is cast out in the marketplace. Then before I had tasted of any meat, I started up and took him up into a room. Okay, unto the going down of the sun.
Pause right there. A lot of people don't understand the words doing a good thing unto Yah on his holy day. So we know in this passage here that the feast of Pentecost is also known as what? The Feast of 7 weeks. Because remember, there's 2 parts to this. Remember, Pentecost is a twofold festival. Twofold festival. Okay. But anyway, Most people would call Pentecost the Feast of 7 Weeks, okay, or the Feast of Weeks, okay. There's many names for it, but remember, it's twofold. It's a twofold feast. So you understand that. Um, and this feast is holy unto Yah. And one of the things that Yah would tell, especially like on the Sabbath day, he said, "Do no evil upon my holy days." So as you meditate on this and you look at Torah, as you look at gospel, you begin to understand why Tobias was permitted to do what he did for those who was dead. Okay. Remember they was in, I'm trying to think what nation they lived in. They lived in Nineveh at that time. Okay. Because, our people were scattered. All right. And that was the time of the prophet Jonah. All right. So that's an instant read. Just want to give you the setting, what was going on. So they was living in Nineveh among heathens or among Gentiles. And he noticed that on this holy day that one of his people was killed and his body was left out. It wasn't buried. So what he did, as you read these verses, you will learn that he took his fellow brethren dead body and he put it up in a room. And notice here in verse 4, he didn't do anything else with that body until at the going down of the sun. So we learn from precept upon precept that he was waiting to the end of Pentecost, to the end of that day, at the going down the sun, because on that going down the sun, that's when you have that day ending, and then you have another day beginning. So now we're going to see what he's going to do on the day that was coming in, that started at the going down the sun. So to reader 2, read verse 5, 6, and 7.
Okay. Then I returned and washed myself and ate my meat in heaviness, remembering that prophecy of Amos, as he said, "Your feast shall be turned into mourning, and all your mirth into lamentation." Therefore I wept, and after the going down of the sun, I went and made a grave and buried him.
Okay. So looking at these verses, because it's like a conversation, right? So notice what take place on the day of Pentecost. He washed himself. Go back into work, because there's certain things you can do to become clean. Okay. Like I say, you have to meditate and just do your research. So on the day of Pentecost, he washed himself and he ate his meat in heaviness, because your feast days of Yah was supposed to be a joyous day, but it became a sad day unto him because of his brethren being killed. Okay. And he was remembering what one of the prophets was saying. We was dealing with the prophecy of Amos, as he had said, "Your feast shall be turned into mourning, and all your mirth into lamentation." Okay, because our people was committed idolatry. To read more about that, you can find it in Amos chapter 8, verse 10. Amos chapter 8, verse 10. Because whatever Yah say is going to come to pass. His word do not come back void unto him, as prophesied by the prophet Isaiah. Okay. So in verse 7, he wept on the day of Pentecost. And notice here what take place in verse 7. He said, after the going down of the sun, he went and made a grave and buried his fellow brethren. And I say brethren, it means his kinsmen, the Israelite. Okay. So he waited till that day ended. And on the way he knew that day ended, y'all, he had to look at the going down the sun. Because after the going down the sun, that's when he can bury him. Right? So in the sight of the Most High eyes, he did a good work unto our Father. Right? That is something to go back and meditate on. But this is an example what I'm talking about, as how the going down the sun is used to know when the day is ending and when another day is beginning. Okay? That is the role of the sun. So it would eliminate a lot of doctrines about at sunrise, because a lot of people are getting confused, with when a day begin and end versus when certain services of that feast starts. And you have to go back to your Torah to understand what I'm talking about. A good example to look at is Numbers 28 and 29. For example, Passover, the sacrifice of the lamb don't start till at the going down the sun. Okay. Atonement don't start till at the going down the sun, but it ends at the next day. Okay. From the ninth day, the going down the sun, to the 10th day of the going down the sun. Okay. Same thing with Passover. Passover is a V14. So it starts at the going down the sun and it ends at the going down the sun, from sundown to sundown. Now, when you look at other feasts take place in the morning. This is where many are getting confused. That's what I'm talking about. Certain services, certain feasts would take place in your morning time. But it does not indicate unto you when that day begins and ends. And when you think about it, they are eliminating night. So they're leaving night hanging out there like it don't exist. That is not heavenly common sense, y'all. I think what the Father is telling me now, we are making this too hard, too complex when He made it so simple for us. But one of the problems that we have is that we've been modernized, Hellenized, Americanized, Babylonianized. And I say Hellenized, that means we fall in the ways of the Greeks. I mean, all this has taken place upon us, and this is why we're having a hard time understanding what the scriptures or what the precepts are saying unto us. But I guarantee when the day comes, when He takes away the electricity and the plumbing, which is the running water, and He takes away all these delights or all these conveniences, then we begin to understand what the living word is telling us. Then we begin to understand the scriptures, the precepts, the line upon line. All right. Back here. So that concludes the lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed part 2, which is sundown to sundown, between the two evenings, which mean at the going down the sun. But we learned these words here. These are the words that we learned. Let's write them out. What means at the going down of the sun. We learned that evenings. Okay. And I'm going to put here between the two evenings. Okay. And we learned that what was between the two evenings was the sun as it was going down. We also learned that the word evening also means at the going down the sun. We also learned that evening tide also mean that as well. Okay. The next thing we learn is evening twilight. Evening twilight from the work of Josephus. Okay. And that's also mean at the going down of the sun. Okay. So these are some interesting words that we have learned from part 1, part 2. Please go back to part 1 and look at the scriptures that was written by Josephus, because he gives you examples of phases of a day. And when I'm talking about a day, dealing with evening and morning, which is night and light. Okay. So he gives you examples to help you understand our Father's definition, because when we get into the Gentiles' definition, it is a lot different from our Father's definition. And the best way to look at twilight, according to the Hebrew way, it is the time in between. And what is that time in between? Dealing with the time of the sun going down and how it's becoming in between the evening of that day ending and the evening of another day beginning. All right, I'm going to go back to this diagram. I hope y'all enjoyed this lesson. It was a great edification for me, and I hope it was a great edification unto you. Take this time to meditate on y'all word, because it's amazing, and it is, what's the word I'm looking for? It is so good to understand our Father's mind, His mindset, and to understand where He is coming from, and to do it the way that He wants it done. All right. Continue, my brothers and sisters, to preach that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, for it's truly at hand. For the Messiah set the example of the water baptism, the Holy Spirit baptism, and they made it so easy for us. Meaning that if you have no one to baptize you, well, you can do it yourself. Exercise your faith with works. Okay? Wherever there's water, you can baptize yourself. Bathroom, swimming pool, river, lake, ocean. Okay? Because the Father has made the water in the earth as the second witness, and his heavens and his earth is a witness unto him. And they can report back unto him of those who have entered into the renewed marriage, which is the covenant that Yahusha HaMashiach has made for us. He is the second Adam. He is the left, the door, the sheep. He's the iron, the lights, that's I, the body. And he is the fountain of the living waters. And it's the same as with the Holy Spirit baptism. Father made that easy too. For he said through in the gospel, as well as 1 John chapter 5, all you have to do is ask in the name of his son, which is Yahusha HaMashiach, and he shall give it unto you according to your heart, your faith, and your words. Remember, Father knows what is best. Love you all, and we bid you a shalom.